I was introduced. I am Shakuntala. Okay, I have been in the industry for 20 plus years now. Working across, I've worked across, during this tenure, I had the privilege to work across multiple use cases in multiple sectors and industries, leveraging data analytics, AI, and automation, right? We all know that in the last couple of years, AI has accelerated, right? We have seen multiple use cases in nonprofits, and I think nonprofits are at the right place where they can actually leverage AI and bring it and actually implement it within the thing. So during today's session, our agenda is actually to introduce you to AI, that what actually AI is, walk you through a few case studies, and then we'll also have a hands-on session using a open sourced tool which is there, right, where we'll be actually interacting and seeing how we can leverage that. And then we'll conclude the session with a question and answer round, right? So as we complete this, so after today's session, you will be able to understand how AI is evolving. So after today's session, we'll be able to understand how AI is evolving, what are the factors that you need to take into consideration, right, for responsible usage of AI. How as an organization you can identify and evaluate the areas where we can actually leverage AI to streamline that process. We'll also speak about the tools which are openly available and can be leveraged, and then see and work together in identifying the use cases or the tools which can help solve that particular problem, right? So we can move ahead and start with the session, but before we do that, I just wanted to understand that what is your experience with AI? Are we any one of you leveraging AI in your practical day-to-day activity or leveraging it as part of an organization? Anyone in the room want to share? Yeah? Okay.
I represent an organization called Utkarsh Global Foundation. We are into animal-human relationships.
Right.
And because of my educational background, we are using ChatGPT.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we are using ChatGPT to. Hello. Yeah, we are using ChatGPT to find the communication which is good for regional people, because animal-human conflict in India is speaking, and none of the parties are ready to talk to each other.
Okay.
And I'm leveraging AI to talk their language and to solve problems. However, let me also state my expectations from this session.
Right.
Uh, this thing is how to create a proper model across this initiative, which is missing in India. We don't have trained professionals for such initiatives. I have huge expectations from AI. Like AI is doing wonderful job when it comes to art.
ChatGPT has actually democratized and
Yeah,
not
yeah,
very specific to technologists now.
correct,
It's
correct.
actually making it available to all of us.
Right from presentations till numbers. Like I'll share a basic number. Everybody says that dogs are dangerous because of dog bites. If you look at average dog bites per 1,000 dogs, and average murders or rapes per 1,000 humans, not comparable. So that's what so yes, I have leveraged it, but I'm sure you guys can help us do a much better job of it.
You're using ChatGPT to do this analysis.
Yes, 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 we are. Thank you.
Namaskaram. I'm from Isha Foundation. You must have all heard Sadhguru's videos. So we are now trying to use AI to have Sadhguru's videos dubbed in other languages. So that the content and the reach out is more accessible to the, let's say, Marathi, Gujarati, Konkani, Malayali, all these things. Yes.
That's okay. Yeah, personally, I use AI for almost everything right now. Proofreading, emails, writing content, whatever. When I use for it, personally, I use it. Analyzing our reports, basically all your reports, Excel sheets, and etc. As a company, Goodera, we use AI for our clients, basically content writing, matchmaking between corporates and non-profits, and image and etc. So
So you basically are leveraging AI, and your people are also trained in that AI stuff. And when you're saying that you are actually using AI for everything, it's basically you're leveraging ChatGPT or traditional AI ML algorithms that you're aware
there
of.
are different tools. Perplexity, ChatGPT. Perplexity is one more which we use. We use DALI for images. So
Oh, nice. So
yeah.
basically everything in and around which has come from LLM perspective. Okay. So how we are going to start the session is we'll actually introduce you to what AI is. So LLM is basically an application of AI. The LLM and the chat GPT which we are talking about. So we'll start with an introduction of AI, right? And then we'll speak about the responsible AI, the privacy and the ethical issues which come along with this, how you can mitigate that. Then we'll move towards implementation consideration, that what all you should consider, what are the factors you should consider while implementing it. And then we'll take into consideration few case studies. Okay, and as a practical experience, we wanted to use ChatGPT, but I think many of you have used ChatGPT. But yeah, we'll use ChatGPT to start writing prompts and see how the outcome will be. Yeah, and I'll hand it over to Puneet now to start with an introduction of AI.
Thanks, Shakuntala. So, okay, so next slide. Sorry. Okay, so I'm Puneet Narang. I think she introduced her, so I'm also part of the EY GDS. I have 25 years of experience working across financial and a lot of other clients, global clients, and I've also worked, like we have also delivered a couple of, for non-profits also we indirectly, indirectly, we have helped them in technology solutions. So, I mean, we want, although most of the people are aware about AI, what AI is, because it's a buzzword nowadays, right? Everybody's talking about ChatGPT, large language model, generative AI. But many people are still not very clear in terms of differentiation of different technologies, and it gets mixed up. So I just thought I will just spend 2 minutes on clarifying and demystifying this so that it is easy and explainable. So, like if you see AI is like it's a like broader umbrella, and in the broader umbrella you have like the tasks that human does, right? Like the way we are able to think through, stimulate, right, and perceive and reason and come to some conclusions. AI tries to replicate the similar behavior, right? And it like in the tasks, but at a not at such a broad level as like that humans are able to do, but in the narrow tasks in areas, for example, writing emails or multiple areas where you can use predictions, etc. And within AI, then the next is like the questions asked is what is ML, right? So machine learning is like a subset of AI. AI encapsulates multiple different technologies. So machine learning is a is a way where we use statistical models and techniques to get, for example, if you have data, you can prepare, you can work on data and prepare some, it will helps you get your trends. It can help you predict, certain, outcomes. It can forecast things, right? But it uses those statistical models just like humans, are able to do. But humans are able to do that at a are not able to do that at scale, because we can do hardly, when you're doing those calculations, only 1 or 2 calculations, right? But the machine's AI with its all GPU and compute power, it's able to do that much faster at a much more scalar. And I mean, like while we can do 2 or 3 records, it can do millions, parse through millions of records, and it can process and give you results in a much, within seconds. So that way, it gives you the results very fast. Okay. Next comes is that like we understand, but ML is a subset of AI, right? And now, lot of people ask me, okay, this is okay, this is ML, but what about deep learning? Because recently there was advancements in machine learning, deep learning algorithms got evolved, right? So deep learning is, again, you can consider that as a again subset of machine learning, right? Within that, it was created a couple of years back with intent to mimic human, behavior of the brain. Like brain has got neurons, and we are able to, when we get some content, we are able to think through the circumstances and able to, make sense of that and able to come up to some, conclusion. It goes to multiple layers in our brain. So similar way, deep learning has multiple layers, and it creates, it uses these different layers to give you predict something or give you output. And within deep learning, there are multiple different technologies. Like there's a technology called ANN, which is artificial neural networks. These are like forward propagations. So what happens is that there are multiple layers in the deep learning. So one layer will do some part of the analysis or some features. It will give it forwarded to next level. So next level will again do analysis. Like that, when it goes to multiple levels, it is able to interpret and get the results. So ANN is a more simplified form of a deep learning algorithm, and which is used. And then next is your CNN, convolution network neural networks. So convolution neural networks is more a specialized, like a form of deep learning, which is used for image, like for image understanding. For example, it has got multiple layers, and each layer will work. If you say if you have an image of a dog, it will process, make rectangles divided into multiple rectangulars, and it will try to get to the features of each part of the image, and it tries to extrapolate that to understand it's a dog, cat, and with known images. So that's what is called as the CNN, and CNN are still very powerful and being used for a lot of image processing or image understanding, right? All the most of the AI which works on imaging and video generation, etc., rely on CNN. The next is your RNN, or the recurring RNNs. And RNNs are like slightly smarter than ANNs. They are able to, they also again have multiple layers. And for example, when you pass a text or an audio, it is able to process them and give it to next layer. But unlike the ANN, which is only able to go forward, it is able to take a stock of what has been given, give a feedback back to the previous layer, and improve, use that to learn and improve, and then subsequently pass to next layer. So it has got a back propagation also, and that makes it much more smarter and a better tool. And eventually, this has been also the basis for the generative AI. All the large language models evolved from the RNNs. So what was happened was RNNs earlier were we used to do on smaller data, but eventually, a couple of years back, it was figured out that if we pass very huge amount of data, like for example, all the internet browsing data, right, books, all that, if you pass huge data and train an RNNs on those huge, on data, and that you pre-train them, that becomes what it eventually becomes a generative AI or a large language model that you see the present generation, chat GPT, etc. Because they have been trained on very large amount of data, so they are able to generate data. Like there are two types of output. One is like a definitive output where you label data and give that, but if the model is already trained on huge amount of data, then it can use that data to now start predicting words, whether text you are trying to type, right, or whether you're trying to type images.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I think we can have questions in here. So what we spoke about right now is, so we are using LLMs, right? LLM, as I mentioned, are models which are trained based on these algorithms, right? And what Puneet mentioned right now are the different type of algorithms which were there as part of AIML, right?
Yeah.
So any questions here, or should we
The,
move to the
yeah.
next?
This will just help you clarify understanding, although
Yeah.
lot many people already aware about it. But
So we are using LLMs, right? I saw you were using LLM. You're also using LLMs. You are also using LLM. ChatGPT is one type of LLM which is there, right? So that is trained. So you must have heard of this, right? That is trained on huge amount of data, and that huge amount of data is something which we have scraped across. Now those LLMs also are different type of LLMs. One is text generation LLM, which you are actually using for generating your proposal, documentations, and all those stuff. And then you have image generation capabilities, right? Where we are actually using, and one of the very interesting use cases which we are doing is we are actually helping generate campaigns using this LLM, so image generation LLM, which I think is one of a very, we can use it, right? So text generation is there, image generation is there, now voice generation is also coming in, right? We have people
yeah,
speaking. So there is one very interesting use case where we did, where we had the transcript got recorded. People were sitting there and we had an LLM sitting in there and it was suggesting them what should be the next question we should ask. Or it actually summarized that. You can actually create action items out of that. So that is the capability behind it. But what is behind that is this RNN,
yeah.
LLM,
These are algorithms
that
behind all this
actually.
magic that you see. So I just thought we'll just imagine for 2 minutes.
So any
Yeah.
questions in here or should we move to the next slide?
So only one question. You can answer it later. All the training models, the models that you use, the data that comes are predominantly in English.
Right.
And in our country, you've got 18 odd languages or
Yeah, I know.
spoken.
Hindi, Tamil
So
and everything.
are you also accounting for that for tier 2, tier 3 non-profits to train on different languages, etc.?
So we're talking about this language training model, right? So when we're talking about this huge data, so there are ChatGPT has foreign languages, but as an Indian, we can also train our models. We can also have that small LLM models train on these languages, which can be used for converting to that
Hello.
particular language. I think
So you,
you are already using it for the language translation.
I mean, you can have both ways. Like for example, like you can check out of the box models. They are also having some level of understanding of Indian languages, regional languages. But you can also, and like as you were saying, custom fine tune those for specific content, and then fine tune and get the more accurate responses. And that is where a lot of ecosystem in India startups are working to make that reality, and so that. Okay, so I'll go to next slide. So next slide is about very high level. It's a small exercise activity. We are just trying to help you understand differentiate different technologies. So that because AI and a lot of technologies get mixed up, so we just thought we'll do a small exercise. So and these are mostly predictive ones. So if you see the first one from the left, we need your help to map them out. For example, map path recommendations. I mean, you might have used Google Maps, right? Other maps. So where do you think the map path recommendations will map to one of the right side ones? Which one? Yes, I think that is correct. So, and okay, I think okay, that's correct. So I mean, like eventually it uses all the routes. It uses the current your data from your mobile device and locations, and based on that, it predicts the next route, right? Where you want to go based on congestion, whether it takes into account that. Second is your customer service chatbot. If you have seen in any contact centers or customer services, they would classify your content, or they will they will be people using that. So I mean, where do you think the customer service chatbot will map to? First, right. So I mean, usually what we do is because in customer care, the data is narrow because you are if the customer is handling in healthcare, you know only healthcare data and you have the previous data. So you would do a reinforced learning and you will custom train your model to get a better output, right? Rather than using ChatGPT, you can use ChatGPT also, other LLMs also, you can use it. Third is your generative AI or generative chatbot. Where do you think this would map? Yeah, yeah. So we all know that the chat GPT or the LLMs are using internet, books, articles. It is a lot of huge data is there. So it's mapping. So next one, I would want to like app recognition, plant species. Where do you think? Which one? Images? Yeah, I think right. Okay, so I mean these are like I told you, image models are there. So images are able to we can classify images, and right, these are being used in plant species, detecting pests, right? Or all multiple areas, right? Scanning areas. These are image. The last one is if you have to send a donation email notification timing, like you want to find out like if I want to send a donation related email, what time is like to be best perceived by the customer or the per client. So which I think it's only one left, so it is easy guess. So what you do is you look at previous transactions and behavior to find and predict what timings works best. If it is like a summer holidays, you might know he might be out, or if it's Diwali holidays, they will be out, right? So you will not send during that duration. So okay, so eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to just map this with a technology stack. So can you help me map with the technology stack also? The first one we talked about the map recommendations and traffic data. I'm just giving it to you. So like it's IoT because it is using your device location and it is using that to map that out, right? Your route pattern and using that data to predict next steps, right? Next is your customer service chatbot, I mean like responses. What do you think with the key technology is getting used here?
Any guesses? We generally speak in
Customer service, yeah. When you talk about customer service, it is natural language, or we are talking about English, right? Or Hindi or whatever language, right? So eventually it is natural language. Whenever you're doing, it is your transcript or the text which is going out, through different channels is actually natural language, right? The way we speak, right? So it is natural language processing. Generative AI chatbot is a LLM, right? I think it was no guesses, right? Or the chat GPT LLM models, generative AI models, right? Generative AI models. App recognizing plant species images. What do you think this is? Yeah, these are computer neural networks. These are part of deep learning I told about earlier. I informed that like this was. part of the neural networks, and there are image models which are able to do that. So last one, for donation email notification timing, you want to predict timing, where we should best time to send it to the client. What could this be? Any guesses? Okay, so I'll go. So it is like you are doing machine learning, because you are trying to look from the previous data to predict what time is best suitable for when you get best responses. And during those times, you will try to send them. If they are very active on the morning times or certain duration, you will use and predict them. So that way, it is like a prediction and machine learning. Okay, from here, I will go to the next page. Okay. So we all know that AI can be used to its best advantage, right? And AI can be very powerful and not getting used in multiple places. But we have to also use AI responsibly, because because it is very important that although can do all good, but there are things which has to be taken care of. For example, when you are working with those large language models or AI models, the data could have bias. For example, if you are, and those biases can affect the results, okay, and that can lead to impact, right? So basically, what we have to do is, when we're building those models, or when we are using large language models, we have to either, if you're using the large language models, we have to select the right models which are already having better, results, and they are able to get a better results, and they are not biased. Or we have to put measures to measure bias and manage them bias, right? So for example, if you're trying to find out a vulnerable people, or for example, for identifying for example, children or child, it might model, because the data might be from the weaker community. So you might find that it will always, the data will be biased towards that community, but it will not, give you a wealthy areas. So those type of things, biases will always come, because the data set that we are getting might have the biases. But we have to take a corrective measures, and we have to ensure that when we spot the bias, we have a methodology, like we have monitoring mechanism and drift mechanism to monitor those biases and fix them, so that those do not go into the end results. Like in the eventually, when we are taking decisions based on that, the decisions are not biased, because they can have implications. Secondly, is that we have to ensure that
Sorry, it is a question, you have hit the right thing.
yes,
Most of the people who use AI are biased.
yes,
And getting into really bias, is there a code of conduct or SOP which I can give my people? Like most of my people come from a family which is patriarchal.
right,
I've seen AI results coming like Papa se puch ke jao, basic this thing.
right, right.
So later on, if you can answer this question,
Yeah,
this is the major roadblock I'm suffering from. AI is what you train it to be.
yes,
And
yes,
trainers are not perfect. In fact, they are the most biased people around.
yes.
How to handle that? So I thought I'll just this thing. Thank you.
Any other questions on this? Okay. Okay. Other thing is about safety, security, and privacy, because we are all excited. We start using ChatGPT, right? But you think through a situation where you have your client data, right, and you have your use communities, underprivileged communities you're serving. If you end up in a ChatGPT, like models like open source ChatGPT models, they are using the data that you they're giving it to them, they're typing in them for training their models. And it might happen that that same data that you give for about your clients or your vulnerable children or some community that you are serving might get into the training, and next time somebody else is typing the question and they might get that result, right? You don't want that situation. That is a scary situation, so we all want to avoid that. So it's very important to have, when you work, for example, if with the large language models or maybe in your own data, to design with security. Like for example, ChatGPT can be directly taken from the internet, which is open free source, but providers like Microsoft or other bigger players are giving a private instances where you have option of opt out. When you take a opt out, they will not consider your data for training. So that way you are covered up. There are other lot of other mechanisms also where you can do that, but these things really help, because they, and also if you have very, very confidential data, you will want to do a masking. You will mask the data. You do not send it. Like if you have like somebody's email addresses, phone numbers, you don't want that data to go. You will mask them because you will want to, other textual data you can send and you can mask this data. So there are techniques to mask this data. So all these things are very, very important whenever you are using your even your chat GPT or large language models. And what clients are doing is, many companies are doing it, they have created on top of chat GPT, they have created their own in their premises in the office, they have created their own layer, which will first they will hit that, and that will check if there's data is API data, private data, it will might mask them, it will not allow them to do. So that way you keep a checks and balances of what is going into your chat GPT or any other large language, but also any AI, right? So those type of things is important, and these considerations should be thought through.
Yeah, I think you've already touched upon this, but I just want to highlight. So, algorithmic bias is something that's very hard to prevent. And
Yeah.
even if your design is inclusive by design, even your technology is inclusive by design, there can be a lot of things that pop up which might not be inclusive in nature, very contextualized, right? So, what is the best alternative, or how do we go about even building that data set which is inclusive by design and does not lead to
Okay.
discrimination?
So I will give you some examples depending on what type of model you're using. For example, you're using large language model like ChatGPT, which are black box models. You can't change the model because it is already there, right? Pre-trained. So you get input and output. The only for way for you to check the bias in this results is there are a lot of, like there's a data set called C3 non-biased database. So there are such data sets available which are non-biased. You might need to match your results with those non-biased or such data set which have been, like for Meta or other companies have open source those data sets which can be used to match. So in some clients when we're implementing, we are matching against them and doing, and a lot of other tools which are coming in the market which are able to monitor the LLM or the performance. They may have those data sets already included. So they will give you those in the monitoring. When you set up the monitoring for them, they might be able to point out to, of course they might not be able to go 100%, but at least they will give you certain level of biases and indication you will get it. So that
Thank
is where you can probably.
So while using an LLM, right, you can just control the output which is coming in, right? But you can also train the data, and while you're training the data, you have other practices. We call that as ML ops practices, where we start from the data layer. We actually control the data, what is feeding in for the model.
Balanced
training.
data, you call it, yeah.
Right?
If you have flexibility, like if you're not using ChatGPT, but you are building a machine learning model and you have data, so you will check whether the data is balanced. If it is not balanced, you will go back and get more data and make it balanced, and then you pass it to machine ML model to predict so that it is giving right output. Okay. So, okay, so I mean, like I mean, we have already covered that part. So if you can see there, I mean, bias protection. Like I mean, you can check real with data. I mean, I told you about you can do like data sets, right? There are multiple ways you can check the biases, right? And you have to put a testing mechanism also in your. Okay, and security also. I told you about, you can anonymize your data, like information before sending if it's very, very critical, somebody's contact details, etc. You don't want that to go to the models and be available in the public domain. Your access controls. If you're building a chat or AI based applications, your application should be access controlled. Like you should put a user ID password, right? Some authentication mechanism so that it is access control, not available for everybody, because that way everybody will have access to the data because you are underlying, you're exposing your corporate data or some data, right? You want to protect that. I mean, then you can, and then you can also, you could be security by design. Like you can architect in such a way the whole application. Eventually, you start with using, for day-to-day activities, ChatGPT or generative AI tools. But when you implement for the enterprises, you will create an application based on that, and those layers you can build in all the security controls, right? So that at each layer you will checking as an input pre-processing and post-processing, you're checking this as a part of the system itself, so that, and you have control over the prompts are getting, because and nobody can just modify the prompt. So you will put all this guardrails and in control, and like AI can also hallucinate, right? So there are multiple techniques available to manage those hallucinations. So in your prompts when you're doing, there are best practices that we should do to avoid those guardrails. And there are input and output guardrails, like other guardrails could be there, right? You would want to check the data which is getting out. So there are multiple ways you can do that. Okay, so This brings us to next level, next layer, which is how do your, I mean, like when you're implementing for the organization, I mean, like we talked about how to adopt and like the AI principles, etc. But how do we, how should the organization adopt AI, right? And what should be, I mean, it is very important when you're implementing AI to strategize your AI deployment, like have create a AI strategy and discuss and create an operating model, create a design, think through how this will be deployed, right? Because very important for us to properly execute this, and there are a lot of steps. I'll cover that. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take an example of a company, a non-profit organization. Like we are now into the adoption of AI. So this particular, say, company A is a non-profit organization, okay, and they serve under they serve underserved communities on food, right, healthcare and education. So they want to streamline the operations, and they have not started with AI. So they want to start with AI and they want to adopt AI. So what should be the roadmap for them? So I mean, if you see, it's a very good flow for us to understand how the adoption should be done. So first step is like when you're doing an adoption in a company is to make people aware about AI and remove the misconceptions. For example, what I've seen is some of the other organizations have done workshops. They have made people aware about the responsible, how to use AI responsibly, what are the different tools, how they can use it, right? They are making them aware, because awareness is the step one. Step two is that once they are aware, they know how to use it and what are the benefits. You give them some training sessions and you give them some tools. Like for example, you can have your own version of, a large language model, some AI tools given to them so that they can experiment. The day-to-day emails that they're writing, right? The drafts they're writing, they can use that. So they should start experimenting, and in the at least employees level productivity benefits, they can start, start leveraging this for the day-to-day tasks, because that will help them get a more accustomed and use, they know the capabilities of AI. And once they have done that, right, the basic level of capabilities, then you go to more advanced tasks, right? And you also create a system of feedback, right? For example, you want to get a feedback on, oh, you started using this, oh, what was your feedback? Is it helping you or not? Oh, where are you getting stuck? So that way, if you create a feedback loop and, and do a communication back to them, you can help them adopt this more, like ask them to share their experiences, and some person can champion that and and guide them on how to use, to type better prompts, right, how to do all that. So that helps them make the adoption process easier. Okay, so okay. Okay. So this is like, I'm just talking about the general productivity, like across organizations are using AI for, increasing the productivity. I mean, if you see healthcare, finance, TMT, everybody, I think across industries, it's just getting used for productivity improvement. And I mean, and non-profit are no different, right? They are also use similar process. They have finance, HR. Some of the processes are common, right? Okay. So, like we already talked about the AI models, etc. So, if you are just coming to what are different tools available. So, I think Shakuntala already covered earlier. Their tools could be like your large language model, like ChatGPT for textual models. You have Clouded.ai, Mistral, Google Gemini. These are all different. Microsoft has launched the Copilot. So, these are different tools you can use in your non-profit organization to expedite and like at least get adoption.
We have done is we have actually listed the tools across four categories. One is text, the other is image, the third is speech and the voice processing, and the fourth is virtual assistant, depending on the type of activities we assume or expect the non-profits to have, right? So these are the tools which are listed in here. And ChatGPT, I think many of you are already exploring it, right? We have Claude, Mistral, Google, and Microsoft Copilot is one tool which is actually getting leverage across, right? In image, you have DALI, which is open sourced and it is actually available. Some of the tools which are listed here are open source and some are already paid, yeah, right? Yeah, so next. So with all the tools which is listed, we wanted to conduct a practical experience in here, right? For the people who have not used ChatGPT. So do we have time to do that? We have only 5 minutes, right? Okay, that's okay. Should we do it? Okay. So, okay. So I'll request every one of you if you can actually log into the system and just access that URL which is listed at the top. People who have not exploded, or have everybody exploded? I know a few gentlemen and okay, okay. So with GPT coming in or with the LLMs coming in, right, there are tools which are available which is actually enabling us to, or augmenting our work, right, which is enabling us to do the tasks properly. One such tool which is available is ChatGPT, right? So if you'll open the ChatGPT whenever you get some time, it is having a conversation-like interface where you can type in and you can start interacting. But when you're actually conversing, right, Puneet covered few things from an AI perspective. You have to be typing in the right information to get the right information back, right? And there's, so this structure which you are seeing is a very basic example of a prompt, right? So the chat GPT is also giving rise to multiple skills, right? New skills and new roles are coming in, and prompt engineering is one such role which is coming in. And one activity of a prompt engineer is to write a proper prompt, right? So to write a proper prompt, you can simply write what is the task you want to perform. But LLM is actually trained on huge amount of data. So you have to set some context. So provide some role, like I am so and so, and I want you to assume that particular role, do this particular task, and then provide context. Context as in additional information. And then if you want it to provide the output in a specific format, right? If you want it in a tabular format, if you want it in a summary format, you can just specify as an example, or just mention in the context that return it in so and so lines, in few lines, or in a format of table, and you will be able to do that. So right now we are not doing it, but I'll request all of you to open this. This is actually available, and you can start using it. So the next one was an example we wanted to try, and we wanted to actually go line by line. We wanted to start with this. So this is a context where we are actually asking the GPT to assume that you are a non-profit fundraising specialist. So you have to give me a list of at least 12 low-cost work ideas, and you have to provide your information. But while we are providing the information, we have to take into consideration the privacy factor, right? We don't have to provide and give anything which is private to us. Either you anonymize the information and still provide that information, and it will be able to answer it. And finally, give some examples toward the end, or if you want a specific format, do that formatting and provide it. And you will be able to see the outputs which are coming in, and you can continue to play back in that particular format. You can continue to revise it till you actually get the final output, right? So that is what ChatGPT is. Apart, when you'll open ChatGPT interface, you will find image generation as a capability also, which is a very interesting thing, which we are also actually leveraging across fund, where we are generating campaigns, right? Initially, we were dependent on a marketing team to develop that, right? Now we can actually start writing it, and you will start seeing the images there. So that's one thing. So we need to speak about the implementation considerations.
I think, yeah. So I think implementation consideration, when you're doing it at an enterprise level, I think you have to look at define clear objectives for your organization. You have to define data quality and other governance mechanisms, right? How you will be using this. Then you have to define the technology stack that you want for a company, and like all the like the security and protection, etc. All these factors I think you will consider, and then the stakeholders whom you are developing this for, and then you create the monitoring and evaluation, because that's very important step for you to monitor like the output of the AI engagement, and both in terms of value generated. The second is the quality of the output, biases and other things, so that you are able to do that more responsibly.
I think we can do questions now.
Yeah. Last question. Okay, I'll skip this first. So these are some case studies we have put, for example, which the organizations are using. For example, I mean, like one of the healthcare provider is using this to, it is using chatbots for the frontline people. So you can run campaigns like, I mean, chatbots can interact with the end users and can, get the inputs. Or you could be revolutionizing your healthcare. For example, the Life Bank we talked about, they're using blockchain and other technologies to better predict the demand. So you're forecasting something. Or there are like for education sector, you can generate content for for educating the child or like vulnerable youth. So it can, because it's good in generating the content. And then the last one is like you can also have more engaging campaigns, right? We talked about and reaching out to people because it gives you hyper personalization. I think that's it from our side. Um,
So we have one question that we need to speak about. Any other questions we can actually discuss? Anyone, any question? Hope this session actually made some sense. Yeah. So we need to understand one thing. Okay. Yeah, please.
So it depends. Like if you're doing in your captive one, because most of the AI requires a lot of huge compute and GPUs to work. If your use case is very broader, right? You are writing emails across multiple domains, sectors, etc. Then the out of the box services like ChatGPT, because they're trained on large model, will perform well, and they might be you might be cost effective for you. But if you are doing a narrow domain, right? If you're just doing healthcare, and within healthcare you only have certain data on, you want to do very limited task, then you can have a smaller model and you can fine tune this with your own data. And in that case, it will be cost effective, it will do the better job also. So you have to think through your use case first, decide the use case. Is it a narrow use case? Is it a broader use case? Do we have a data for this training? In that basis, you can take a call.
And there's an alternative also, right? Alternative is you don't have to train the model all the time, right? So when this chat GPT things work, there's something called retrieval augmented generation, RAG-based solutions there, right? You can have a database. So that way, the data is within your control. You are not sending everything to chat GPT. And we can use chat GPT just for summarization or sending certain information to it, not the complete data set. So that way the data is there, we are cost effective, we're not sending everything and our data is safe as well. That answers. So that, as he said, that depends on the use case. You, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can discuss on the use case and we can have a
I mean, we
further
can
discussion.
discuss it. What use case you talked about? It could be done in both ways, right? You don't might not need to just put your own LLM, because that will be very costly affair for you to put GPUs. If you have reports and if you have like structured data, there are agentic agents available which can go through the data and answer, like fetch you the answer depending on what you want to do. Or you can also implement your custom models. These are all subject to what you're trying to achieve. But I mean, depending on more detailed understanding, we can do an offline discussion, and I can guide you. We can always, suggest the right solution.
She has a question.
Following up on his this thing, so if we want a customized solution, we talked about ready services that can, provide image generation or sort of capabilities. For example, my organization has a lot of data, in Excel, in database format. Or for example, if you want to use remote sensing data or satellite data for creating a model, machine learning model, how is it that we go about? What are the kind of tools that we can use? Well, I mean, my team is not a tech team, but a tech adjacent team. So,
Yeah, yeah.
if
So
you,
best option for you is to like first, for adopting AI, you will look at the data in details, and after looking at data, whether if the use case requires prediction, or you have to just only refer to data and analyze data and get some reporting out, right? Depending on that. So like reporting can be done by large language models. You don't need to train the data. But for prediction, if you're trying to use the previous data to predict something, then you might need at least a machine learning specialist or somebody who knows AI. And nowadays, everybody campus pass out. Most of the people are coming with that knowledge. So if you're able to either train somebody or get somebody with that knowledge, I think that he can help you create those predictive models.
So it's use case specific.
Yeah.
I have two simple questions. So first question is like how much secure is this chat GPT and all? Because it is keeping a log of everything, right? So I wanted to understand that.
Okay, so the ChatGPT and OpenAI, they have also taken a lot of preventive measures, they are also responsible organization. But when they give, there are multiple ways to use the same model like ChatGPT. Either you can use it on the open source where there are no charges there, right? When there are no charges there, because they have to earn money some way. So they will be using your data and retaining and use that to train the model, right? Eventually the data is going there and getting trained. But you can take the same, if you take a pro model from them, which is as an enterprise model, or you go to Azure and from Microsoft, they offer the ChatGPT. They have an option for opt out. You can go and ask them for that opt out. I don't want my data to go to the model and the model should not take my data and train it. So if you go through Azure or those private instances of the same ChatGPT, your data is at least better secured because now you are covered through a legal contract saying that the Microsoft or the OpenAI or Microsoft is not going to use the data for training the model. So those type of measures you can take, and if the data is still very, very confidential, like email addresses, etc., then you can mask the data before sending. So there are multiple levels of security you have to think through when you create your own solution.
I don't know how much relevant this question will be, but recently what happened, one of my team member was asking me for a C-type charger. And after 5 minutes, I was getting a recommendation list on my YouTube that benefits of C-type charger. So I don't know, and imagine like, we are technology people. If the same thing happens in villages and all, right? So I just wanted to understand how we can stop, our laptops.
You want to use this particular, right? This particular problem that you that problem you can solve in your Android. Go to settings, and you can, there's an option like where there to disable your data being used. So I mean, most of the companies, whether it's Facebook or Google, they collect the data, both speech data as well as they're using mic, etc. So you can disable those settings.
There's a movie. It's out of context, but there's a movie Control. If you have seen, it's there on Netflix. So be aware of what you're checking and what you're clicking. Okay,
I've
that's
selected
important.
that up. So I've selected. I also had a similar situation. I selected all my settings and changed it. After that, I'm not getting it.
I think we are done.